Don't stop.
Hi, thanks for joining me on the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. I'm your host, Zach Randalls Friedman. There's been so much in the news about people coming out, and especially in sports. Heated Rivalry started, athletes starting to come out. And I did an interview with Jesse Kortuem a couple of weeks ago, and I was able to talk with him and help tell his story on why he came out, because he put out this post on Facebook that was kind of, for personal with friends and family, and it ended up blowing up and going viral, and he was totally caught off guard with it. Hockey is a hyper masculine sport, and, there's the locker rooms and just the players and stuff are all, super masculine, and, I'm sure the F word fag is dropped often, and, I can just kind of imagine what it is. And I can imagine in other ways too, because the hockey players are pretty hot. So I can imagine the locker room in a couple of ways. But my point being is that, I relate to, first of all, I play no sports. I never have been into sports at all. Whenever I was in junior high and high school, I was always standing on the side. There was a tennis court in my junior high. And for the girls that had their periods, who didn't dress out, because you had to change into shorts and a t-shirt that they'd give you and then change back. And I just I had no interest in playing any sports at all. I was not athletic at all. I didn't want to change in front of other boys in the locker room. So all this stuff that happened. So it was me who didn't dress out and who failed PE, physical education class, every single year of junior high and my freshman year of high school, because I wasn't dressing out. I just refused to. And I would stand on the side of this tennis court, and the girls that had their periods would not dress out. So it was me and the girls. There's this one girl, Christine, who had her period all month long because she didn't want to dress out and participate either. I'm actually still friends with her on Facebook, so funny enough. I think about those type of things, and obviously completely different locker room compared to whenever I was in junior high and high school in PE class to, being on a hockey team where it's completely different. But, I felt uncomfortable then. And, no one ever said anything to me in the locker room or whatever. Whenever I did dressing out a few times, dressed into my gym clothes. But I just felt uncomfortable. I was super, super skinny. I probably looked a little anorexic looking because I was so skinny, and I ate so much. And as a kid, I just could not gain weight. And God, I wish I still had that. And then it made me think about, was there a time in my life that I was, not necessarily with my parents or anything, and not before I came out of the closet. So I came out to my parents when I was 22 or 23-ish, probably 22. And it wasn't great. It wasn't horrible. About 6 months later, my dad came around and everything was fine. And me and my dad became much closer after I did come out. But there was a rough 6 months. But going back to my original thought, I thought, have I had those times where I've had to be closeted? And I'm, again, not talking about with friends and family before you decide to announce it to the world that you're gay. But I, even well into my relationship with my husband, Andrew, there were times where I was working for a company within the last, I don't know, at least 12 years, maybe 13 years ago, when I was working for a company where I told a few people I was gay, and not that they didn't know, people didn't know I was gay, but I didn't talk about it. There were certain people that would talk to me about, what did you do on the weekend? And I would be very general or generic with it. I wouldn't say me and my husband did this, or me and my husband or boyfriend at the time did this. Nothing like that. And we had to live in Raleigh, North Carolina for about 2 years for a job that I took. And it's not the most, it's North Carolina, first of all. Second of all, it's not super liberal there. And there's a lot of people that go to church. I remember my first day going into the office there. Somebody asked me, "Oh, what? Have you found a church to go to yet?" I'm like, "No." And I knew then I wasn't telling anybody really about who I was, at least at that point. And there was a lesbian that worked in the office, and her and I became friends. And my manager and the people that I worked with in my group all knew that I was gay and knew who Andrew was, and they would invite us to their house, and so all that was good. But there was somebody like, let's say, like in the marketing team that I would go and work with. There's some straighter guys, straight acting guys and stuff. I would never ever like talk about my personal life or talk about being gay, or I didn't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. I didn't want anybody to judge me. I didn't want to be not included in a meeting because somebody had something against gay people. When you're gay, it's not all rainbows and unicorns all the time, and big parties and stuff. Like, there is a lot of shit that gay people go through to get there, and I think living in today's world where for some areas, for some kids that are able to come out or figure out who they are in junior high and high school, which was not the case at all for me, it's better in certain parts of the country or the world. But there's still so many places that you can never even come out as an adult because, if you think about Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, all these southern states, you can't, there's a lot of towns that you could not be gay there. You don't know, there's racism, there's homophobia, there's all this stuff that is outside of these areas that, I think people don't always think about. And people don't think maybe about gay people, what has to happen, what you have to go through. Because first of all, you have to admit it to yourself, because society doesn't think you should be gay. And I remember laying in bed in junior high trying to think about, if I marry a woman, what would my wedding be like? And I just couldn't imagine it. Something about it, I just was not for me. And I don't know. I think that people underestimate what a gay person, the trauma it takes for a lot of gay people, not every gay person or LGBTQ plus person, to come out, to be who they authentically are. There's a lot of internal psychological process that you have to go through. First, to admit it to yourself. At least for me, that's how it was. And then to be able to tell that first person, or to meet your first gay friend. How do you meet a gay friend? It's maybe there's, again, today's could be a different world because there's online. I didn't have online growing up. I didn't have social media or apps or chat rooms or anything like that growing up where I could meet gay friends or gay people. None of that existed. And so it was definitely a challenge. And, one of the original points I wanted to make is that just going into work and not wanting to be who you were doesn't feel like it was so long ago for me. I mean, let's say it was 12 or 13, 14 years ago. In reality, that's not really a long time. And the guest I have on today have gone through something. Well, first of all, they've gone through what I've gone through in a lot of ways, especially AJ, who you're going to meet today. AJ Ogilvy is a basketball player that lives in Sydney, Australia, grew up in the suburbs of Sydney, and he lived in a conservative town, like an hour outside, a religious town, and had to come out, and he played professional sports. And, professional sports are not necessarily a place that is so accepted for LGBTQ plus people. Jesse Kortuem, who is a hockey player, who you may have heard his interview a couple of weeks ago when I had him on, he went through this same thing where he had to hide who he was. He couldn't come out, and he came out on Facebook, and just did it for friends and family and went viral. And he's just like, what the hell did I just do? And, thank God they both did this, because now I feel like every day I'm opening up Instagram or opening up an app or looking at a news cycle or whatever, and you see somebody new coming out. There's a rugby player in Germany. There was a guy on the side of a soccer field that proposed to his boyfriend for marriage, and the whole stadium cheered. So these two guys are making a huge difference. This is what we need. And I tell them this in the interview that you're getting ready to hear. But these are the type of people that we need. Not everybody can be so open and brave, but they are so incredibly brave. I'm so incredibly grateful I got to have them both on my show at the same time and kind of talk to them and talk through their story. And they are giving so many people out there hope. Me, as an out person and an openly gay man, it gives me hope because of where we are in the United States with homophobia and where we are with this current administration in our government. It gives me hope that these two guys are pushing us forward, where we've been pushed back so far back over the last 13, 14 months. And now things like this make me feel like there is hope. Again, I'm so proud of these two for coming out, being brave. I don't think either of them really expected it to blow up the way it does, but they deserve all the credit in the world. They deserve all the attention. They are helping kids that they'll never hear from feel like they are not alone. They're helping grown people who feel like they're not alone, who haven't come out, who don't feel comfortable. So incredible two men, and I'm so proud I got to interview them. And I hope you enjoyed the interview with Jesse Kortuem and AJ Ogilvy. Thanks for listening. Hi, thanks so much for joining me on the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. I have a returning guest and I have a new guest. So welcome back, Jesse, to the show. As everybody knows, I think everybody in the United States now knows Jesse's name. So Jesse Kortuem was the hockey player that came out. He has not only been on my podcast, which is the most important, but he was also on the Drew Barrymore show. He was on NPR. He was on Minnesota Public Radio. He's been all over the place. So welcome back, Jesse. And my new guest, I reported AJ in my news the day he came out, and then all of a sudden, here he is on my show. So welcome to the show, AJ Ogilvy.
Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to be here.
So AJ is a basketball player in Australia, and you retired in 2022?
Yeah, 2022.
Awesome. And he came out, and we're going to talk about his whole story. But first, I want to start with the two of you. Is how did you, I know how you met, but tell my audience how you guys ended up connecting and meeting.
Yeah, so I was actually leaving the Drew Barrymore taping that next day on my way to JFK. And my friend Brett, who's kind of helping me manage my life in a viral world, sent me AJ's article, and I read it, and immediately just reached out to him and sent him a message on Instagram and just said, "Hey, I'm so proud of you for finally telling your story. It's gonna change lives not only for people in Australia, but just teens and kids around the globe that are struggling to find themselves." And I just said, congratulations, and keep being that bright light and positive story in the world. So.
That's amazing. And AJ, when you got it, I'm sure you've got endless DMs now. Did you know who Jesse was when he sent you the DM?
Yeah, I'd obviously seen Jesse's story off the back of the Heated Rivalry stuff and his coming out. So read all that stuff leading up to obviously my video going a bit wild. But yeah, did get a little buried in DMs. So it did take me a little bit of time to get back to Jesse. But no, when I connected the dots and saw, username's not your full name, so it took me a while to figure it out. But once I did, I was really appreciative of the message and so supportive. So it was awesome to have someone that's been through what I was going through reach out and offer support as well.
I love that. And so let me back up with your story. Whenever I heard that there was another basketball player in Australia that came out, and you came out kind of after him, and you were having a conversation with him. Did you ever expect it to go this viral for you coming out? I mean, and I have a million questions for you, but I wanted to start with that one because Jesse was like, "Wow, what happened? I was posting this for family and friends, and then now he's like a household name." Like, did you expect this with yourself?
It sounds odd to say no, because there's been a few cases in Australia of ex-sports people coming out and it's gone pretty wild. And then, obviously Jesse and a few other people have had similar situations, but I just didn't think that basketball has a decent following in Australia, nothing like the US. So I thought it might be isolated within our basketball world. Like you said, my interview was with Isaac Humphries. He came out publicly in 2023, and so he's still active in the league. Plays for Adelaide, and we kind of coordinated this chat coming into the NBL's, which is our National Basketball League, Pride round. So I knew it was going to be used in the telecasts, like at halftime and that sort of stuff. So I thought it would be mostly isolated to TV crowds and those sort of things. That had no idea that it would get the legs that it's got, and it's really just run pretty crazy. It was like, I think we sat down for about an hour and 15, and covered a whole range of topics, but they managed to cut it down into something pretty powerful, I think.
Yeah. So whenever you I'm assuming that you took some time to think about this before you came out. So just to back up for people who haven't heard your story yet, which I'm pretty sure most of our listeners have, but you've been married for 18 months, right? And did you have to sit down with your husband and say, hey, is this okay? Or did you have to kind of get his seal of approval because it was going to be life-changing?
Yeah. We kind of had a discussion about, I think it was the right thing to do. It's a weird situation because within my team, it wasn't really a secret. Like, I was somewhat out to players in my team without publicly saying it. My now husband came to awards dinners and was around the team, and people knew him. I had ex-teammates at the wedding. So it was I guess a bit of an open secret within people that were in my sphere in basketball. I think we had a bit of a chat about, doing the video for the league and that sort of stuff. But I think we would have had maybe a different conversation if he knew how wide it was going to go. He has asked just to, keep his name out of it, and have his privacy, which is totally understandable. That's been so far so good.
Well, it's funny, whenever I Google you, Google kind of starts filling it in. The first things that come up when I put in AJ Ogilvy is AJ Ogilvy shirtless is the first one, and then the second one is husband. So I think that's probably the second most thing that people could be looking for, at least in American Google.
I was typing my name in for something. I can't remember why I was Googling myself, but that came up, and I was like, dear Lord, AJ Ogilvy husband. I'm like, oh, God.
And Jesse, just, we've talked about this, like how surprised you have been, and we've texted about this. I mean, can you believe that it's still happening? Like, you're still a main conversation. Today, someone that didn't listen to my podcast said, hey, did you know we were talking about Heated Rivalry, and they said, did you know that there's a hockey player that came out? I'm like, yeah, I interviewed him actually, and I know him. And so are you shocked that this is still making news this many weeks later?
It is. My friends in Vancouver keep on sending me articles that the Vancouver has run now. There's been multiple just other news outlets that have continued to reach out to ask for my story or ask for comment on different things. It's wild. It's still out there, but it's finally settling down. And I'll be honest, though, those first couple of days was fight or flight mode. It was a little bit of panic, a little bit of, hey, I'm not prepared for this. I know AJ's story was mostly planned and sitting down with an interview, or hey, we're going to release it this day, so at least you can be prepared for that. Where my situation was just, hey, it's a therapeutic post that I want to get out, and it just got legs and took off.
And AJ, did you have to tell your family, or I'm assuming they knew since you were married and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I've been out to my family and friends for quite some time. Obviously, we had over 100 people at the wedding, so it wasn't a shock to any of them. But I did let them know the night before, like, hey, there's going to be a media release tomorrow. Could go either way, I guess. So yeah, just let them know that there was going to be a bit of a release through some Australian newspapers, and once that got released, it just took off.
And we'll be right back. Okay, and now back to the show. I posted Jesse's story on social media and YouTube, our interview, and the comments, I think we got one negative comment throughout all of them. And they have all been from straight men, gay men, lesbians, transgender, straight women, especially straight women. For some reason, straight women love Jesse. And they're like, yes, go, like they love it. Like, what's been the reaction that you've kind of had from social media and people? Has it been very similar? And yeah, let's start with that. How it's been in Australia.
Yeah, fantastic. I tried to stay out of the comments as much as possible, especially on Facebook, because I don't use Facebook a lot, and I feel like that's not really my people, if you catch what I mean.
Yeah.
So on Instagram, I was, because I was obviously tagged in the NBL's post, like, I got all the notifications pushed to me, so I saw a lot more through that. There was all really positive. Everyone was really supportive. There was maybe one or two that it was kind of the, when's street pride round type things, which,
yeah.
Of all the things for people to say,
yeah,
water under the bridge. I am glad that I've matured some, because previously I would have bitten back and tried to have an argument with someone in the comments. So no, I'm glad I'm a little bit older and wiser and able to just avoid the one negative and absorb the good ones.
Yeah, I mean, I'm older than you, and it's hard for me not to kind of clap back at people in the DMs and on social posts too. So, I'm glad that you could do it, because I just can't handle it. So, but I've been told just let it go, because for the one bad one, there'll be 2,000 awesome ones. So just let it go, and that's how I'm looking at it. So can we talk a little bit about, like, you grew up in a suburb of Sydney, and it didn't sound like, from what I read about, it wasn't the most openly, it isn't a place where you could be kind of openly gay, or it wasn't accepted maybe, or something that just wasn't talked about. So how do you feel now that you're out and you're maybe helping, well, not maybe, you definitely are helping that same kid now that's maybe struggling with their sexuality or struggling to tell their family. And Jesse got an awesome message, like on the second day or so of him posting his from a kid, that he was able to tell his family at a barbecue and they accepted it. Like, how does that make you feel, knowing that you're having the same impact to these kids, or even to an adult, and it could be anyone, that you're having that impact where you're letting people know they're not alone, that there's other people like them in some cases. I mean, it could be not just in Sydney, it could be, Australia's a huge country with a lot not in the middle, right? So it could be a kid that's living in these, suburban areas that have no other connection to the LGBTQ plus world, and you kind of have given that to them. So tell me how that makes you feel.
Yeah, like I said, grew up in kind of northwest Sydney, so like an hour outside the city. Was pretty, like, I guess, a lot of religious, like, Christian Catholics. My family's Irish Catholic, so I grew up going to church every week. Went to a all boys high school, so like a rugby based high school. So maybe not as like crazy as it could have been, but wasn't an accepting place for gay people to be at all. And like you said, I think that my whole reasoning behind wanting to do this was to help, even if it's one person, because it's what, if I could go back and change time, it's what I would have wanted and needed as a kid. To be able to see someone who's done what I want to do, been through what I'm going through, and that there's light on the other side. To be a kid and see, no path carved out for you, and that if you want to do it, you're going to have to be the trailblazer and figure it all out for yourself, was daunting. And not something I would wish on someone going through all the other rigors of adolescence and childhood even. Yeah. So, like you said, if it helps one person, if one person reaches out, and says to me, I grew up in the same suburb, and it's fantastic to see you doing that. It's amazing. I have had messages from people kind of all over. Some people that are uncomfortable saying who they are, some people that are unable to say who they are because of where they live. And I'm sure Jesse experienced this too. There was a huge influx of messages, but I felt like I wanted to read and respond to as many as possible because it's about, that's what I did it for, right? To reach people, to help people understand that they're not alone and there is support. And if there's one thing that I can tell them, it's that on the other side, it's so supportive. The community is being fantastic. Like you said, there's maybe a negative comment here or there, but on the whole, it's just been incredible.
Yeah. And Jesse, have you received any more of those messages like you did from the kid at the barbecue? I'm sure you can't even keep up with the amount of messages that you received.
Tons. I spent hours on the weekend just kind of digging through things, same as AJ, and trying to read and respond to as many as I can. There's so many heartfelt messages of people telling me their struggles or, where they grew up. Some guy in West Texas said, I couldn't be myself. I was one of those lucky people that got out of West Texas to live my truth. And so to read those messages, it really just humbles me. And honestly, it makes me very emotionally almost speechless. To realize that one story could have this gravity, to give people hope or give them that courage. It's something I don't take lightly, and it's something that I wasn't expecting either.
AJ, when you see what's kind of happening I don't know what the political climate is in Australia, and I don't want to get too into politics, but definitely in the United States, which I'm sure you hear, we are kind of taking some steps back in the LGBTQ plus community because of our current administration in the White House. Do you have those same type of issues, or when you hear about things that are happening in the United States, are you just blown away by how far backwards we're being pushed? Or do you not hear that kind of media in Australia?
No, we definitely do. I think America is such a leader in a lot of ways, so then news gets reported worldwide, right? Especially with some of the things going on with not even just LGBTQs, but wider populations, ICE, and the Epstein files and all that sort of stuff. So it's ever present in our news as well. But we did have an election not too long ago, kind of after Trump was elected, and I think the flow of what's happened in the US really affected our politics and pushed our left party to success. So we aren't having those sort of impacts. I really think the election and results and what's followed impacted the way people in Australia voted. And so we are very lucky, very fortunate to be still heading in the direction the US was previously, but are conscious of what's happening worldwide. And I think that's why, Heated Rivalry and, these stories are so important, because it does provide a bit of light in the darkness. There's something positive for people to grasp onto when things are so dark.
Yeah. Did you expect, I heard about Heated Rivalry before it was aired. Did you expect it to have to blow up that much? I mean, I never thought it would. I thought it would probably be me and some of my friends would be watching and talking about it. And I actually started watching. I'm like, I don't know if this show's for me. And then my friend, who's a straight woman, calls me. She's like, "You're watching Heated Rivalry, right?" And I'm like, I started it, but I don't know if I'm into it. She goes, "No, you need to go back and watch it. It's so good." And then I went back and I gave it a chance. And then I'm like, oh my God, this is more. It's not. I thought it was going to be soft core porn, throughout, because that's the first episode was pretty hot in my opinion, and then it started really getting emotional and stuff, and how they connected, and the story was so good. I never thought it would be the most watched series in history, and that's what it's become. And I'm so happy that these two guys are representing us in so many ways. And did it blow up the same way kind of in Australia? I'm assuming it did. I know you guys, I don't know if we have HBO, so I don't know if that's what you guys have, and if it's shown on the same paid channel as it is in America.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any truth to this, but I heard that HBO Australia was the first international company to pick up Heated Rivalry. And then they communicated with HBO US and told them to buy it. So again, this could be an online story that's fact rather than fiction. But yeah, we are through the same thing. Obviously, similar to you, thought it would be maybe just, the gays that watched it because that's who I was seeing post about it on Instagram. But it has absolutely taken off. I went to a Heated Rivalry club night the other night, and it was all, young women like 18 to 25. There was a few guys there, but it was mostly women that obviously have found something about it that, that attracts them and is interesting for them. And what that is, I could, guess, but it would be a guess. I think the thing for myself, it obviously started with that, attraction and then turning into love, which is, how a lot of gay love stories, at least in my sphere, end up. You start meeting someone and getting physically attached before emotionally attached. So I think that's a good representation of how things actually happen in our community, but also just that the positive ending, the positive love stories, like good representation of gay love, which is another thing that just like unfamiliar with. Like we just did not have growing up. It was, if you're going to be gay and like you're going to live a sad and lonely life, and you'll be single and you'll only get sex, you'll never get love, you'll never have a family. It's one night stands, and that's the only thing that there is for you. And I think I've said this repeatedly, but especially episode 5, if I had seen that as a kid, it would have fundamentally changed how I saw myself and how I saw relationships growing up.
Well, yeah, and there was like during episode 5, I'm like, episode 6, it's got to be positive. It's got to end positive. I just kept telling myself like it cannot be negative, and I was so happy whenever it ended in such a positive note. It was amazing. One of the things that I read in your interview that you did previously is that you had to have 2 separate social media accounts, one kind of for public and one for private. I mean, you were definitely like living, kind of a separate life. And do you have that sense of relief now that you can be who you are and be open and be one person and not have to separate yourself?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think I had to. I think I chose to. I think because part of being in sports, and Jesse will reflect on this as well, but you're a part-time sports person, part-time promoter as well. You need to be talking about games coming up, events, it's all that sort of stuff. And so you need to have those media channels to be able to engage with fans. Otherwise, I'll go looking for other ones, right? So I had that, public one that, I really just parked once I stopped playing, and anyone that I met, I'd just have on my personal one. There was a blocked profile, and so I could kind of be who I wanted there and engage with people, the way I needed to. But yeah, it is a sense of relief just being able to not have to stress about someone seeing something they shouldn't, or everyone kind of knows the truth now. It was interesting. I did post like the clip of the interview onto my my other account. Saying something about like, the reason I started this account was so that I could be who I am in a semi-public sphere. So it was a bit of a full circle moment being able to post that and kind of not have to use it as much. But all my group chats are in there, so I can't shut the account down.
Are you both like kind of hoping that I feel like now that you've opened the floodgates, like now there's going to be even more people that are going to feel comfortable and that are in professional sports, to start coming out, or even like not even professional sports, even, college sports or high school basketball and football and soccer. People could start wanting to, feel more comfortable coming out. I mean, you've got to like feel so proud that you've done this. And do you think that the floodgates are getting ready to kind of open where people are going to feel more open?
I think we're starting to see cracks, to be honest. Having that positive representation with Heated Rivalry and finally having something to aspire to that is that Cinderella story, that is that happy story. I think it spoke to any closeted athlete or athlete that is gay themselves, just in terms of the emotion that it really took hold on all of us. And there was a rugby player I know that also just came out in Ireland as well that talked about Heated Rivalry and talked about his struggles with the sport of rugby. So is it, might not be all active players or retired, players that are going to come out, but I think we're starting to see some hope that we can finally have this discussion around masculinity in sports and what it is to be gay. And you can be gay and play a sport. You can be gay and still be masculine in these environments, and there's nothing wrong with it. If we can hammer that message home to kids, teens, young adults, college players, that there is a space for you in these sports, hopefully you can get there.
And this question's kind of for both of you. Like, and was it super hyper masculine in that locker room, like all the time, where there were things being said, like you're just like, if they knew I was gay, they probably wouldn't say this, or not that they were directing anything towards you directly, but just, guys being guys in the locker room. Did that happen often where you're just like, God, if they knew this, they would not be saying this?
Growing up, probably more so, and then I played overseas for a few years, and in college more so. But like I said, when I come back to Australia, I was, playing with people that I was pretty close with, so they were maybe more conscious about what they said and the way they acted.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely in younger years and overseas and stuff like that, it wasn't, maybe it's not as masculine or hyper masculine, I should say, sorry, as football or hockey or something like that, where it is full contact. I think that kind of comes hand in hand with the type of sport. But yeah, there's always going to be some things that you just kind of raise your eyebrows at, and yeah, have that kind of thought of, geez, this isn't somewhere I would feel safe being myself, or they wouldn't be saying that if they knew about me. So yeah, it's always going to be a bit that way with men being the way they are.
Yeah. What about you, Jesse? Do you think if people would have known that they would have probably backed down on those type of comments, especially in hockey?
Yeah, for sure. You still had, of course, early 2000s, the tagline of that time was, that's gay. Or people just joking around, oh, you fucking faggot, or this or that in the locker room. But that really did persist, honestly, even up until I was playing in Atlanta, 2021. I'll never forget. There was a scruffle, or a big scrum, basically in front of our net. There was a bunch of guys that kind of got into a little fight. The refs are over trying to deal with assessing penalties. And a guy on my team just like starts yelling at the team. He's like, shut up, you fucking faggots. It's supposed to be a game misconduct. The refs never heard it. But it's 2021. This is a rec league. Not okay. Yeah. But again, that's the environment of what I grew up in. And kind of, when you grow up in that from a very young age and you feel like you can't be yourself in this environment, it just reinforced that, hey, maybe it was safer for me not to tell my story, not to become a target on or off the ice, good or bad, or be that gay player on a team where you might get a cheap shot taken at you. You might get somebody trying to, two-hand you and slash you and try and break your wrist, or, take a cheap hit on you. So those are other reasons why, players sometimes don't feel safe in these leagues.
And we'll be right back. Okay, and now back to the show. So what do you both want to do now that your stories are out there? You had such an awesome influence on people. Obviously, I would say 99% of the people are supportive that are going to read this story or respond to it. And people are, and I cannot tell you how many people posted how proud they were of Jesse. Proud was used so many times. And AJ, I've looked at comments for you, and I know you're not looking at the comments so much, but the same thing. People are so proud of you both. And when I reported my news story in both of you, before I knew either one of you, I said the same thing. Like, these are the people that we need in the LGBTQ plus community that I'm so proud of. And the fact that the opportunity that I have to interview you is just so amazing, because you guys are going to make change. You're going to change the world. You're going to go down in history as changing. So now that you're out, what do you have plans kind of to do? Are you going to kind of just go back to your everyday normal life, or are you going to maybe try to keep your platform going and trying to help people and kids and just letting people know it's okay? Like, have you thought about I know it's only been a couple of weeks for you, AJ, and only not even a month for you, Jesse.
Yeah.
So what, AJ, let's start with you. What is your plans?
I would love to, find a way to continue down this path. I previously didn't think that it would have the impact that it has. To see the people that, it's reached, the people that have reached out and so much touched them, I would love to, try and figure out a way to continue to help. Obviously, that's might not be immediately in basketball, might be somewhere else, but like you said, it's been 2 weeks tomorrow since the article went live, so it's still a little bit in the middle of it. Trying to figure out some way to help make the future better, because like you said, it might not be more pro athletes coming out, it might be kids in middle school or high school feeling comfortable continuing to play sport and then making it to an elite level, right? Which we know that there's a lot of kids, gay or otherwise, that step away from sport because they don't feel safe or don't feel comfortable. So what the path forward is, I'm not 100% sure, but I would love an opportunity to continue down this road. And so just continue chatting to people and see what pops up.
And Jesse, what about you? What are you thinking now that you've had a little bit longer, not much longer, but a little bit?
Yeah, along the same lines. To honestly be the role model that I never had when I was that kid playing hockey, struggling and being gay and dealing with homophobic comments or not understanding myself that I could be gay and play this sport. If that means working with youth hockey organizations or just really creating that safe space for all hockey players, for them to be themselves. If that means You Can Play project, which is something I'm interested in, being an ambassador for them as well, to educate, coaches, parents, what have you, on positive, uplifting language for athletes. The quitting rate for LGBTQ athletes is extremely, it's much higher, obviously, than the straight community, just because they do face that uncomfortableness in the locker room or within the sport. So if we can equalize that and make sure that if you can play a sport, it should just be based on you can play the sport. If you have the heart and you have the hustle, you should be on the ice, you should be on the court, you should be on the pitch playing soccer. That's what it should matter. It should come down to that, not who you love or who you want to be in your life.
Yeah. AJ, I want to run something by you and see what you think. I know Jesse's kind of like keeping himself open to things and stuff, but I am a matchmaker in my heart. Like, that's what I really want to do in my life, is be a matchmaker. And I think that Jesse should meet Connor Story from Heated Rivalry. And I think that they're a match in my head. I think they are. And I'm trying to talk Jesse into this. And I just need a promise that if I get these two together and there is in fact a wedding, I get to make a speech at the wedding, because I think this is going to happen one way or the other. Do you agree? Like, do you think it's a good idea?
If it happens, you should be able to officiate, I think, no?
I'm going to take that as a yes. Connor, if you're listening, Jesse, look, he's cute. He's got his shit together. Jesse's on the fence about what he wants to do with his life, but I think you could help direct him and help him.
Yeah, push it into the universe, keep manifesting. Yeah. Hopefully it all comes full circle, and Connor Story is listening right now, and in 5 years' time we'll all be laughing at a wedding together.
That's what I'm thinking. And so, and I think whenever Connor is accepting the Oscar, and he's probably going to say thank you to me for finding him his husband. So he's not going to even like think of anything else but like, thank you, Zach Randalls Friedman, for finding me my life partner. So my last question for you both is, do you guys have any plans that you're on opposite sides of the world? Do you have any plans that if you think you'll ever meet in person? Because I feel like you have to one day.
Yeah, I would relish the opportunity. I think, just coming to the US at the moment is probably not on the top of my list of things to do, just given the current climate. But hopefully things move back in the direction where it would be more feasible. And if we get to the US, I'd definitely love to spend some time with Jesse and pick his brain about things.
Awesome. Well, I hope you guys have an awesome friendship, whether it's, just virtually, or if it's hopefully one day in person. And AJ, again, we'll be attending that wedding together in about 5 years. So we'll get to meet in person then, and it's going to be amazing. So I want to just close by telling you both, just how much it means to so many people that you guys have done this. And again, I'll use the word proud because that's the comments that I see over and over and over. And you just, I know you both have had a little time to think about it, but I think the impact that you're going to make across the LGBTQ plus community, to kids, to even adults, to let people know they're not alone is so huge. And you may not have expected it to be this big, but we need more people like the both of you in this world. Like, we need people that care, that want to support the community, that really, I mean, you're amazing people, and I don't say that lightly. And so thank you so much for what you've done, and thank you for sharing your story today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zach.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it, but I feel like I have stolen a lot of time, so sorry I spoke over you a bit, Jesse.
No, we really wanted to hear. I wanted Jesse on because I wanted him to kind of be a part of this, because I've already kind of heard some of his story, and I wanted to follow up so people could hear like how insane his life has been, since then. So, because whenever I first talked to him, he had no idea. He was like, "What's going on?" So he was. We had a phone conversation the night before we'd aired the podcast, or before we recorded the podcast, and he was mind boggled on how insane this whole ride has been. So
yeah, I'm finally coming back to Earth right now. I'll be honest. I'm finally sleeping at night again. I'm finally not. I was literally like not eating for 2 days. It was wild. I don't recommend going viral to anyone. Let's be honest.
Funny, that's exactly how I phrase it to people. I'm like, I always wondered what it would be like to go viral, and now I'm like,
You don't want it. Trust me.
The DMs are going to keep coming in for a while, guys. And like I said, you've made history. So just, and I think it's a history in an amazing way. And again, this is what we need in the world today. So thank you both for doing what you do. I will put both of your Instagrams in the description of this podcast. So if anybody needs to reach out, you heard they read their DMs. So they may get overloaded. So if they don't get back to you right away, give them a little time. So thanks everybody for listening. Thank you both for being on. You're amazing people, and I appreciate it. So thanks everybody for listening. Thanks guys for being on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.